Hi, Greg Alderman. Welcome to One Voice Board. Today I want to talk with you about one of the most important things that we do as board members, and that's listening. I want to talk about the concept of active listening. So whether you're by yourself or together as a group, why don't you throw around what you think active listening is? Now, what I'm going to talk about today is a good companion with Dennis Adams teaching on HDR. There's another video on that if you want to take a look. But let me give a quote to you from Dennis Adams that will set the table. Given a choice, passive people will usually choose being liked over being respected. Think about that quote with me for a minute. Given a choice, passive people, which, by the way, when it comes to conflict and especially when it comes to participating in group dynamics like a board discussion, passive people will choose being liked over being respected. So, how does this apply to what we're talking about? Well, think about your boardroom for a minute, or think about what your board has to do when it talks to its constituents, especially in a church, when your elders have to go out and listen to people who are upset with you. What will we usually do? How will we usually behave? Well, the passive people won't go. The passive people won't speak up. The passive people will retreat. Part of the reason is because we don't realize what the most important and easiest thing we can do really is. And that's active listening. Listening helps us be present without having to answer. Listening helps us demonstrate that we're trying and seeking with all of our might to understand what the other person is saying. Listening helps us get out of our own way. So let me talk about 4 things about active listening. Maybe these are things that you thought about when you were throwing around what you thought it was. But active listening, number 1, is actually listening. You've probably heard this said before because it gets said in any good conflict training or communication theory class. But the number 1 activity that is most important for any person in a conversation is actually listening. Not thinking about what you're going to say in response to what the other person has said. Not waiting for a breath so that you can say what you want to say, but actually pausing. Now, this is a whole nother teaching in itself, but I'll say this briefly for you right now. Listening, not just with my ears, but with my mind and my heart, and especially my body posture. Demonstrating to the other person that I'm fully engaged, that I'm not closed off, that I'm not blowing them off, but instead that I'm actually listening to them with my whole self, that I'm reflecting back to them. So active listening, number 1, is just actually listening, not thinking about what you're going to say. Number 2, it's demonstrating that you're listening. I've already talked about the body posture part, but when we talk about demonstrating, it's giving those cues, it's showing recognition, it's asking questions to draw out more about what you didn't fully understand or didn't hear or wanted to hear more of. That's why it's so important that when we're listening, we're demonstrating that we're actually paying attention to the storytelling by asking good questions. The third thing about active listening is being slow, very slow to speak. Even if you've done a good job of allowing the other person to get everything out in their first volley, one of the things that I've had to work hard on, and let's be honest, I'm still working on it, is even at that point, rather than responding, being slow to speak and instead asking more questions and listening, and then doing what the 4th thing of active listening is, before I even speak, demonstrating that I've heard what they've said. If I demonstrate that I've heard what they've said, what am I doing? I am repeating back to them in my own words the thoughts, the feelings, and the ideas that came across to me as I was listening. This allows the other person to hear their own words and the way they were communicated. It might not all be on the communicator. It might be on the listener. I might have something going on that's impeding my ability to hear what's being said, so that the speaker, the one sharing, can try again so that I can hear it in a different way. I developed a good habit based on some teaching that I received from a mentor a lot of years ago of asking people to say it in a different way. Even if I think I understand, hey, can you say that in a different way? It allows them to take a step back and try again. See, I'm demonstrating that I'm really trying to hear what they say, and then demonstrating that I actually hear what they say, and I'm being slow to speak all at the same time. See, this is what actually listening to someone is all about, and it's what active listening is in its base form. Hey, if you want to talk with me more about this type of important skill in conflict resolution or anything else involved in leading your organization, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at greg@onevoiceboard.org.